Bloody hell. right. What meal of that? Right, I'm back on my main channel. What is my main channel now? As of, I don't know, I checked earlier today and I couldn't post, and then I checked just now and I could. So, what's going on there? Here we go. That's what I was looking for. So, I've been listening to Glenn Beck. It's quite cool after everything that I was saying earlier today. It's weird. It's like all these channels, Richard Vobes, Glenn Beck, and it's just what people are talking about now. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? This is clearly happening, so what are we going to do? Where is it? Here it is. So Richard Vobes spoke to Sir Julian Rose earlier. Let's listen to Glenn Beck first.
But what is that duty? What does that mean? Because remember, there's a comma, not a period. You have to replace it with something that you think is going to be better. Now, I can't think of anything better than the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. Can't think of anything better that would protect them. You just have to actually use those things. See, it's our duty to not only throw off the chains and not act as terrorists or to become what we despise. It's to work together as a people to throw off the chains and organizing such powers that will be more likely to protect those rights. So that's not a terror group, from Antifa to the white supremacists that offer nothing more than chaos, slavery. You have to have a plan before you follow someone or you say, let's just shirk off these chains. Vince's, otherwise known, shows clear evidence, a design to reduce them under absolute despotism. It is their right, it is their duty to throw off this government and provide new guards for their future security. Now, that's a fascinating phrase. Think of that. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, so things that are happening that are destroying your freedom, your way of life, our Constitution, and they're all ending the same way. Has anybody you have ever heard? Hey, how come? I mean, this is a mistake. This is a mistake. This is a mistake. How come there's never a mistake that goes the way of the Constitution for America? That's a long train of abuses and you.
Right. I was getting a little bit frustrated with Americans sitting there talking about America because now it's really got to the point now where it's not just America, is it? It's everywhere, everyone, everywhere. America has got the they've got something that quite a lot of the rest of us don't have, and that's the Constitution. And America was always an experiment. It was a social experiment. And one of the things that Glenn talked about earlier on in that stream, he was saying about how the whole idea of the government was that we were lending these men and women now, but back then it was just men. We're lending these people our power so that they can create a better society. And for them to create and maintain a decent living, situation for all of us, because it's something that we all deserve. We all deserve to live comfortably and well, freely. We all deserve that because we're all living men and women. Shout out to the chat room, by the way. Dragonfly, hi there. And Jolly Man, good to see you, mate. Clarice Starling, good to see you. And Michelle Galvin, hey, how you doing? It's been 2 weeks since I've been streaming on this channel. 2 bloody weeks on a suspension for for medical misinformation. Yeah, medical misinformation. Because I posted screenshots of the protests. Yeah, that's what I thought as well. That's what I bloody thought. So it's good to be back. I've been streaming to my backup channel, which originally 007 was the name of my main channel until they deleted it. And then I thought, I had the Magic Treehouse, so I thought, I'll just make the Magic Treehouse my main channel. And I changed the name of another backup channel I had, Richie Rich. I changed the name of that to 007. But yeah.
Usurpations pursuing invariably the same object, the destruction. And when you have clear evidence that this is a design, this isn't just happenstance, there are people designing this that put us into absolute despotism, then you have a right and a duty. So,
and can we all agree that it's absolutely clear that they have a plan that's been in place, they're implementing it one bit at a time, and Glenn points out how that's how they do it. They build up a little bit of their side, what they're going to do, and then as they're building up their side, they're collapsing our side. As they're building up their control, they're collapsing our control.
the two questions remain. Do you see a long train of abuses and actions that are trying to destroy your rights and powers? Do they all point to the same object, to the
This isn't just Americans. Right? He's talking about Americans and he's talking about the Constitution, but this should apply to absolutely every single living man or woman on earth.
same direction to destroy our system of rights, checks and balances, justice, security, to give us a completely new form of rule and society? I think the answer to that one is clearly yes. But it may not be for those who have their heads in the sand and are not paying attention to the news. Have we, the people, been informed and involved in those decisions? Because if we were all doing it and they were sharing and saying, look, we're going to do this.
This is what I was saying earlier. We talk about Russia and Ukraine and America and England, and they're playing their war games and they're making their rules, and they're not doing it for the people. Joe Biden's signing this thing that's going to hand over power to the WHO in the next during the next thing that happens. Joe Biden signing over control. 174 other countries, or 173 other countries, according to Voynich. 193 according to I think it's Crystal Shaman. Are all agreeing to go along with this. No, they're not. No, they're not. The country's people are not going along with it. The country corporations are going along with it. Each one of these countries that is taking part and is signing into it, they're doing it on a corporate level. It's not the people. China, America and the UK and Europe, they're not deciding anything. These freaking criminals that are in control of everything, or trying to make everybody believe that they're in control of everything, they're the ones doing it. They're assuming this power. They're assuming this right. And I really don't understand. It's baffling me how this is happening. It's really, really baffling me how people think this has got to be the most undemocratic thing to ever happen. There has been no referendum in any country to ask the people if they agree to signing over their basic human rights to the fucking WHO, to a man who 30 years ago, 40 years ago, was a terrorist, was a combatant in a group that has been labeled terrorist. And now he's leading the WHO. It makes you wonder how many. Like, is anybody working in any of those circles? Do they have any intelligence at all? Really? Do they have any fucking intelligence at all? Because, or they do have intelligence, and they're just fucking shit people. They are shit people because they don't give a fuck about anybody but themselves. And if they think that if they're in the gang, it's all right. Because I'll be in the gang, so I won't have to do these things. It's only them. Just the poor people. The people that aren't connected, that don't have friends in high places. Right, we've got 6 people. Captain Rankin, how are you doing? CJDV, how are you doing? Squirrel Sniper. Anybody want to come on? I'd much rather not be doing this on my own. Now I've got my channel. I can go on my channel. Now on my main channel. Squirrel, you coming on? 007 got taken down, Jolly Man, yeah. But I've changed the name of my other channel, my backup channel to this channel. I've changed the name to 007. So that's where I've been. Yeah, I haven't seen you there actually. That's where I've been streaming for the last 2 weeks, mate. To my 007 channel.
We want to abolish these rights in the Constitution. We want to make sure that we have a administrative state and Congress is irrelevant. And we all talked about it openly, and we all decided that would be different. That's not what's happening. More in just a second. So do we have a long train of abuses and actions trying to destroy? Have you been involved in it, or have you been lied to? Have you been diverted, silenced, gaslit? Have you been told things like ESG and the Great Reset are fables, lies, disinformation, conspiracy theories, and now see that they are not that? And how many times have you been told one thing by your government, and then you realize they are actually doing that? Have they allowed chaos to breed and burn on our streets, only to excuse those with a torch and then discredit and silence those people, call them terrorists, when they're actually law-abiding citizens who are just standing up and saying, law and order? Has the government grown past their constitutional restraints? And has it been to enhance and secure your individual rights, or has it been to chain you while freeing those who are in bed with government? And are all of these abuses and actions pointing the same direction or not? Now, you have a right and duty, but that's only the first question. How? What is that duty? How do you do it? Now, this is where everyone stops.
This is kind of what I was saying today. What are we going to do, and how are we going to do it? At the end of the day, that's what we need to work out, because we're all sitting here on YouTube channels, either sat here, streaming, or sat or in the chat rooms. I know there's people that are achieving things on a local level, like in their own households and stuff. It just, like trying to work out free energy and things like that, growing their own food, becoming self-sufficient. But that's still, it's like on an individual basis, isn't it?
This is where everybody says, we got to separate and have a national divorce. And others say, that's traitorous, that's treason. Well, that's because people aren't answering the second question. The Constitution and the Declaration of Independence are very clear on your rights and your duty. But the second question is how? What does that mean? Answer next. So we have been talking about the national divorce. It's trending again today. And people are arguing back and forth. You're a traitor if you say that. Well, you're a traitor because you're trying to destroy America. Let's just use some logic and reason here.
I'll link it up, mate. Sorry, man. I'll link it up. Yeah. I didn't see if anybody answered. Is anyone going to join me here? Squirrel? Cool. Right, you will. You'll jump on for a bit. I'll pop a link in. Hang on. Sorry, mate. I didn't see your response. There you go, dude. Hey, Susie Fairfield. How you doing? I've been looking for a decent boo sound. No.
Evening.
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. Another long day.
You look You look kind of, I don't know, you look different. Maybe it's the hat.
Yeah, different. I've many hats. I'll take the hat
But it's
off.
the beard as well. No, it's the beard. It's
It
the
grows
beard.
quick. It grows really quick.
Yeah.
Super quick. I mean, it's like, that's 2 months from being pretty much shaven.
I think what I've got on my face now is about, I don't know, it's about a month. And it's just, it's disappointing, man. You know, like in every other way, I'm as manly as they come. I just haven't quite got a beard like yours.
Well, it grows faster at the kind of on your cheekbone than anywhere else.
Do you think?
And so you got to keep it trimmed, and I can't be asked doing that. I'm not a vain person, so as soon as it gets like this, I just cut it all off again, start again. But I must have gone 6 months without shaving once, and it was quite a big tuft. But the wife didn't like it at all. The kids
It's weird.
did; they didn't mind.
Some women love it. Some girls love it.
Yeah, she likes the in between. She doesn't mind, 3 or 4 days. She doesn't mind 2 weeks. She doesn't mind a month. Because she knows that I'm going to shave it all off. But she's having to go at my hair lately because it's getting too long. And yeah, just getting summer now, so it's, you know what I mean.
You silver fox, you.
Yeah. I've been doing lots of fencing lately. God, yeah. Lots of digging in the hard ground.
On guard? Not that sort of fencing, no. You've not been D'Artagnan.
I haven't been doing that for years ago. I used to do fencing at school. Used to do épée. Missed out sabre. Didn't do the sabre. Went straight to épée from foil. Yeah, that was good. Not many people can say they did fencing at school.
No, say that again. Not many people can say.
Not many people can say they did fencing at school.
No.
You can. It's not as if you'd ever use it at all. But just seeing how quick reflexes you are. It's just. It's like an extension of table tennis, really.
Right, hang on. We're talking about fencing now. We're talking about on
Yeah.
guard. We're not talking about
fencing.
Yeah, it is. It's about reflexes. It's about it's also
hand-eye
about
coordination. It's anticipation. It's tactics. It's like chess. You get to know your opponent.
Being able to read your opponent's telltale signs. When they're about to strike.
And also ability as well, because of course in real life you'd be dead or you'd be alive. You wouldn't have a second chance to, but these days you know your opponent because
in all honesty, that is absolutely a possibility with a rapier. If you pierce someone's heart, you could kill them instantly. Or if you
saber not as much. I mean, saber you can get an artery.
But with fencing you could be really injured. You could get you could be stabbed, and if
with foil
didn't hit an artery, you could in your shoulders and stuff. You could be injured and not mortally wounded. Right.
Yeah, but during a duel years ago, it would be to the death.
Oh,
so,
yeah. No quarter given.
Exactly.
No quarter given. Yeah.
That
was it sort of, you can't help but think that things were more honorable then because the consequences were so
absolutely
so much more severe if you weren't.
Yeah, of course. You'd expect a smack round the ear from blindsided if you'd talk badly about someone and you didn't realise they were next to you. You'd expect that. But nowadays,
I'd still expect that now from my mum.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, from across the room. But you know, people these days have just got no respect for themselves. So how can they give respect out?
I think that's it, isn't it? I think because people haven't experienced enough respect, they they just don't, and especially with children now, with youngsters,
They only see
because
it in stories. They only see it in
yeah,
films.
and but even in the films that they're watching now, they're not seeing respect in those films. They're not, films aren't like they used to be in the 80s, where it was all about a moral, setting a
Yeah,
moral.
yeah,
Um,
and the whole storyline. You know.
and like, remember Little House on the Prairie and things like that. There was always a moral. There was always a
Yeah,
moral to the story.
yeah, exactly. It was all about family value.
Yeah.
And even then, if it was, a film that had nothing to do with people, it had like the littlest hobo. There was always hope. There was always an underlining agenda of good.
I think what helped to drive that was a fear of God. There was a much stronger awareness and fear of God. A couple of 100 years ago, 100 years ago,
Yeah.
crikey, 50 years ago.
But I think there's a lot of people didn't know how to read or write. I think that played a huge part in it, and so they were more religious because they got all their information before the TV. They got it from the church and the community village hall, and the vicar.
But that was obviously subjective, wasn't it? As
Yeah,
to how good the vicar was, if he was
yeah.
buggering the choir boys or not. And
No, he'd be buggering someone. You know, whether you knew them or you didn't know them indirectly.
what I was saying earlier, Squirrel, was like, and I've said it a couple of times over the last few days. I'm sitting there saying, what are we going to do? How are we going to get out of this? How are we going to turn this around? What do we do? What are we supposed to do? It doesn't seem like enough to be sorting ourselves out, and
Well, I
just
think there
take
has to be,
steps.
unfortunately, just like any kind of change that has happened in the past, it takes quite a big event to happen.
It's going to have to happen, isn't it? It's going to have to be a
Unfortunately,
big event.
and we're going to be the ones that are either going to be telling them beforehand. We're either going to be screaming at them, or we're just going to be sitting there quietly because we've been screaming at them and we've had enough of screaming at them. It just
Oh,
depends on how long it takes.
I don't think we're going to be screaming at them anymore, because it is going to be like we're just going to be sat there looking at them like that.
Well, I have been for the last 2.5 years,
Yeah.
longer than that, really.
There's definitely there's definitely more people waking up. There has to be, because you can see how the conscious awareness has spread through the alternative media.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I don't think
so
enough people have taken the vaccine.
no,
I really think that they've had to do all their numbers in every way possible. And okay, there is a percentage, there is a large percentage, maybe half, but they were painting it as maybe 70-80% have taken it.
No way, absolutely no way. I
I
think
think a lot of people haven't said anything. I think a lot of people are too scared to say anything and even be classed as a conspiracy theorist. Where we've got this conspiracy label. We don't care if we're called conspiracies. You know, it's part of our language. It's part of our vocabulary.
We recognise the fact that the term conspiracy theorist was
It's a
created by
badge
the
of honour.
CIA, and
Of course it is.
it's weird. It's weird how they've managed to actually destroy the word completely, because they go, oh, this, conspiracy. It's like, how many people think about the actual definition of conspiracy? Conspiracy, that's what's happening all the time. They're
Exactly.
conspiring all the time behind closed doors, all the time. Groups
It's
of men
reverse
and women
psychology at its
conspiring.
finest. You know, that word is reverse psychology.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few words like that, you know, hidden in plain sight.
Shout out Roxanne, by the way. That's the first time I've seen Roxanne in the chat.
Yeah, man. Seen me.
God, I don't know how long, man. It's good to see you, Rox. You can always come on,
Long time.
I'll send you a link. You can always come on if you can. It would be brilliant if you did.
That'd be nice.
I'll send you a link.
It's been a while.
I'll send you a link to Signal. There's a link in the chat, but I'll send you a link to Signal. You don't have to, obviously. If I know the situation, it's not. Rox is. There's a lot of people in the house a lot of the time, family and stuff. So it's not a quiet spot to be able to do it. Background noise and everything is a nightmare, isn't it? So, but Rox, there's people are always asking about you. They're always asking how you're doing and where you are, and so Dave's Waffle House. How you doing? Welcome, man. Yeah, I mean, what what do you see happening this year? Or have you just not got a clue?
I see there's going to be a lot more striking. I think there's going to be a lot more kind of mass disruption on the kind of things that we take for granted, basically.
Mm.
I think it's slowly going to manipulate it, going to drain and drag everything down slowly. You know, so even if you're rich, it doesn't really matter because you're not getting what you need, what you want.
Well, it's the distinction between being well off, being middle class, upper middle class, not struggling, being able to live comfortably. I mean, middle class has been decimated already, hasn't it? So it's the upper middle class. It's the ones that aren't. They're not part of the club.
It's the ones that aren't the club. It's as simple as that.
They've had money. They've had enough money to be able to sort of see them through. They've had to really tighten their belts, maybe sell a property or two, maybe downsize their car or something. But yeah, I mean, that game.
I'll give you a scenario. I'll give you a scenario. If we have a Carrington event, which has been on the cards, with an internet crash, and so they would then rebuild the internet, and they rebuild it the way that they want to rebuild it. So you can only access it with a digital ID, and the only platforms they produce are the ones that they control.
Hmm.
And also, because everything is digital, you've lost everything in your bank. So everyone's on the same.
Well, they abolish cash and they have the digital currency, but they say you can only have access to the digital currency with the digital ID, and the digital ID you can only get if you've had all your boosters and your jabs and done ticked all the boxes and all of that. So yeah, they make it impossible to operate,
To join the system.
Yeah. Shout out London, man. How you doing, buddy?
Oh dear, man. He's in London. Oh, fella. Yeah, I can see it happening. I can definitely see it happening. Whether it's, an inkling of the start of this year, I can see it happening definitely within the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I would say I'm thinking. I mean, really, they want to implement it all by 2030, don't they?
Yeah, of course.
They want it all implemented by 2030. So I'm just going to remind everybody. I don't talk about it enough, and I haven't done enough of my own work on it, basically. But this whole thing about being presumed lost at sea or dead, the whole birth certificate thing, the whole presenting yourself as a living vessel, as a living man, rather than a corporate entity. I think that's got to be one of our. That has to be one of our potential tools to help us navigate what's coming. I think we've got a time. I think there's a time limit on that as well. I think 2026 will be 360 years since Charles II made the made the addition to Sesto KV.
Yeah.
So 360 degrees of a circle. We know how they. All right, we don't know how they work. We don't know how they operate, but we've got an idea, and that can't really. I don't think that can be ignored. I think it's important.
Well, I still think that if we are declared dead, as you say, our birth certificate, and it's all been signed by our parents, so we don't see have control of it. We have to take that back somehow. And so we need to find someone in their world, like a coroner, to declare us that we are not dead and that we are living.
Does it have to be a coroner, or can it be a medical professional?
Well, I think you've got to see who signs the paperwork on a court.
It's the coroner. The buck stops with the coroner, doesn't it? As far as the certificate is concerned, they declare somebody dead, declared dead, but then the coroner signs that off. I used to live next door but one to the Berkshire coroner, Charles Hoyle, his name was, and we lived in the old rectory. We lived in Church End, the old rectory, Church Road, right? And it was the old rectory from the church had been converted into 3 large houses, like 3 2-story houses. Two of the houses had basements, and our building, the house that we lived in, was an extension on the end. I wish I still lived there, man, because our house was the newest section. but the main section that was the oldest, they both had cellars. So I'm thinking mud flood.
Mm.
You know, it was that mud flood.
Well, we've got. I mean, in the village that I'm in, it's about 300 yards off of the main road that goes from New Haven into Lewis, and it's at the foot of the start of the South Downs,
Right.
and it's quite a low. We're in a valley here, so it gets quite windy. And it has its own kind of weather as well, because the rain. We get a lot of rain before it hits the dam. So it's we've got an area right over the back, 2 or 3 months of the year, because it's just flood water.
You're breaking up a bit. I don't know if you're on Wi-Fi. Or...
Yeah, I'll just a little bit closer. There you go. Is it better?
Yeah, it's a bit better. Yeah, that's the trouble about being in a valley, isn't it? Is all the water getting off.
Being chalk as well.
Oh, yeah.
Chalk and clay.
So it just...
So you've got that. Yeah. But it's a lovely area, though. It's so peaceful. Expensive, but peaceful.
Yeah. I love valleys, though.
Mountains. Yeah, you can walk up to the top. Yeah, you walk up to the top and you can walk along the ridge. And there were pilgrims that went a pilgrimage from here all the way along the ridge of the Downs. It goes all the way towards Arundel, and then picks up. And you can go all the way to Stonehenge. Keep on going. Just the ridge, the east to west ridge. So you've got Brighton, which is like quite low, and then it goes up. You've got the Seaford, which is 300 foot above sea level, but it's right actually on the sea.
So yeah, so it's cliffs.
Yeah. But either side of it, you've got Brighton and Hove, of course, which are all on the level. And Brighton's got the largest ley line that comes up south. It goes all the way straight through, up to the tallest point of Scotland. And it actually goes right underneath the pier.
Yeah.
So the Victorians knew that, and they built the pier. So all the energy that they get from the entertainment gets drawn along the ley line. And then they built the palace, the royal palace is right on the ley line. Keep going north straight up from the pier. And then you've got the monument of Queen Victoria. You've got Prince Charles's summer palace, Camilla's place. And then you've got St Michael's Church with a huge round window facing south all the way along the ley line. And then from the church it goes 90 degrees right, and it goes all the way down to where they've recently just built the new hospital. And so they build hospitals on ley lines too as well. So
that's
obviously draining energy off of.
Yeah, they're not. That's the thing. They're not doing that for good reasons. They're not doing that to help heal. They'll be doing that.
That's why they close all the churches. They close all the churches down. You know, that's why they burnt all the piers. They don't want good going into the energy lines. on the
this.
energy lines, there are rivers, underground rivers, and so you've got naturally sourced water, and this water is constructed, so it's at the highest purity, you know.
Yeah.
And even Paul would mention there's in Southend, there's a raging torrent of a free water that's coming from Chalkwell Park, and the Victorians have diverted it to go straight into the sea. And it's flowing every day, constantly, at a rush, just going straight into the sea from the ground.
I can't remember who it is I was watching. They're talking about there's a little echo. I don't know if maybe the microphone's picking up from my earphones or something. So I've just turned my earphones down a little bit. But
Maybe.
I think it was Jason Brashears talking to what's his name, the Muslim lad.
Yeah, I watched both of those.
Yeah, it was good, man. I really
very
enjoyed it. He seems like a really nice lad as well.
Yeah.
I think it was them, but it might have been another channel, and they were talking about how all of the mosques were power stations.
Yeah.
And you can prove it because some of the mosques have still got the power station inside. They're not used as mosques. They've got the power stations. Yeah. And they're all over the earth. If the mosques were power stations, I think it follows that we're probably right about the cathedrals being power stations as well.
Yeah. And
it was all about water as well. Sorry?
Water towers.
Water towers, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because
it
was water.
A big part.
Massive part, man. I think that, you know what I think the Industrial Revolution was in truth? It was the revolution to...
I think they created this and they realized it was for free, and they capitalized on it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, well, I think what they did was they saw what was available.
Yeah.
Because through the free energy, they could see what was available, and they knew how it was generated. They knew that we were contributing to, we were creating the energy that was then being carried around. You know, we were part of the system. We are part of this earth realm system, the energy flow around, you know, that flows around. We're supposed to, I think the whole point is we're supposed to balance it out. We're supposed to balance that energy out or something. You know, we've got a role.
It's all about balance. It's all about balance. You can't do anything without balance. The moment you're unbalanced, you'll become one-sided. You know, and that's when you pick sides.
I still like my comparison or my observation that it's the first thing that you learn to do when you grow up. The first thing that you learn to do to be able to participate in just in life is balance. You have to learn to balance. Your body learns how to balance your head, because your head is so much heavier. When you're a baby, you can't hold your head up, can you? You're supposed to
exactly,
because it's too heavy.
Support a baby's head.
So
but then saying that, there has been a couple of babies that, you know, have been absolutely ridiculously older than what my first child was. My first child was Orson. He took ages to kind of, you know, get mobile, and he was kind of crawling backwards on his legs. And then Florence, within 2 or 3 days, he was crawling around, doing somersaults, backflips. It's just a gymnastic out of the pair of them. But, yeah.
Shout out, Dave, dude. You're awesome, mate. You're a bloody You don't know how badly I need it at the moment. It's been, let's just say, it's been slow the last couple of weeks, and
Well done, Dave.
well, yeah, thank you, man, thank you. I wish I was more intelligent than I am. Just, you know, I wish there was a way that we could. I like what Voynich was saying earlier. Actually, he said we should create a new language. Just totally create a new language for us, for all of us who want to get away from this system, who want to say no to this system. We want to create our own system. One of the things that they're using, one of their main tools for fucking us, is language.
Yeah.
It's English. This,
yes, double sword.
yeah, we're constantly putting out this energy. You know, we're casting these spells, and we're putting these vibrations out into the world. And most of the time, we're doing it without even thinking. We're not you know, it's just how we've always done it. We're not. We do. We think more about what we say now. Not so, you know, with certain greetings. You know, certain times of the day, or generally,
Yeah.
not wishing well over people and all of that kind of thing. To wishing somebody a good day rather than, or saying grand rising rather than the, you know, happy death morning. But if we could create our own language, I mean, it's a monumental thing. But if we could create our own, imagine if we were able to communicate with each other, and they just had no freaking idea what we were saying, because it just sounded like gobbledygook. I said, you know, that's where, like, actually maybe what Joe Gifford is doing with her light language, you know, maybe that's that's sort of, it's sort of along those lines, where it's a light language that
Yeah.
isn't necessarily fixed. It's more of a energy thing, or I don't know, you know what I'm trying to
Well,
say.
yeah. I mean, when I listen to Joe, I really deeply listen to her, I find myself almost repeating what she's saying at exactly the same time as when she's saying it. That almost immediately,
Hmm.
as
Which,
if
and
I know it.
yeah,
It's
which
like
sort of
it
says,
sounds like it's like a bit of French that I used to know that I can't remember what it was. But no, it's not. It's certainly, you know. But it's like it's some of it is like something that I've hummed myself,
yeah,
or that I've said myself, just in a like, you know, cuddly do, or you know, or I don't know. It's some of the stuff that she said is quite clear to me, but the rest of it is, you know, interesting.
when I said to, I told Joe this. The way I sort of realised that I was getting in my own way. Every time Joe spoke in light language, my ego, or an aspect of my ego, was getting in the way, and being, you know, like that
Yep.
voice, that little voice that's going,
Little
nah,
trigger.
she's just
Yeah.
making it up, mate. She's just making it up. Mate. No, this
Yeah.
is just like being, you know, like being 8 years old and just talking gobbledygook, meh, right? And I shut that voice down and said, no, piss off. And I really thought about it, and I thought, do you know what? It could be anything. She could be channeling an ancient language. And I thought about how some languages do sound like gobbledygook. You know, like
Well, they
I
don't
mean,
even have to be ancient languages. You know, there are some
no,
dialects. There are some dialects in, or is it in? It's not the Philippines, but it's like Papua New Guinea.
yeah.
You know, and it's more of a communication than a word, or it's a sound. It's not a word. You know, why have a word when you just have a sound? When you know what the meaning of the sound is.
There's
The
a
sound is much
language.
easier than.
There's a language in Jamaica that's there's like one person alive now that left that speaks that language,
Mm,
and they didn't live in the time when that language was spoken, but it was passed
they
down
only
to them.
learnt it. Yeah, yeah.
They learnt it, and now they're the last person alive. They're probably gone now. I think that was a couple of years ago, and this
Yeah,
was quite an old person. Gaelic.
yeah.
If you
But
listen to
that must have happened maybe 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6. How many times has that happened in the past?
how many times, yeah, yeah.
You know, it's just another full circle for some, unfortunately.
I mean, how many people are there alive that can speak Old English?
Probably a few historians. You know,
It's not going to be very many people, is it? It's probably going to be a handful of people that can
oh yeah.
speak Old English. So
But I think when I was looking into fletching and bow making, there are 9 official bow makers in the UK, and that's you know, and they would be the ones that make the bow. They take maybe 7 weeks to make a bow, a
because
proper bow,
it takes that long to cure the wood and
to
everything,
set the
doesn't it?
wood in. Yeah, exactly. You know,
Not cure it. Well, it's not curing, is it?
but it's the knowing the knowledge all the way through from making it to firing it to the weight of the arrow that could only use with the bow that's been made by that arrow, by that bow. You know.
the draw strength and everything.
Yeah, exactly. So that will be a dying thing within 30 years.
And it's still illegal. It's still on the books that you can report your brother-in-law for not doing his longbow practice.
His longbow practice, yeah. I think there was the only sport was banned on Boxing Day, but the only thing you could do was archery.
I think I wish I had I wish I had a bow and arrow and a nice 500-meter space where I could practice archery. I love archery. I love shooting. I love targets. I love throwing something. Just
Yeah.
throwing a stone and hitting something a distance away. There's
Well,
something
have you
about
seen those? Have you seen those slingshot rifles
yeah. Jorga
for
Spray.
hunting?
Jorga
And
Spray
they're
was
just
reviewing them.
amazing. I mean, it was almost like a telescopic thing that he just pulled out of his little pocket. And this thing hit this can. It must have been about 100 meters away.
Mm.
And he had a little red dot. Just all it was a little red dot on it. Incredible. It shows you the technology with how simple it really needs to be. You know, you don't need to have this 1,000-pound unit.
Whereabouts are you based, Dave? Dave had his shotguns taken off of him because of his YouTube channel. You in London, in the UK or America?
Dave Waffle House, probably Canadian.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't know. I
Bit
didn't
of a
know.
clear up in Canada.
I think it's still the law in the UK that any man can legally own a shotgun.
Yeah.
As long as
That's
you don't
what
have a criminal without a criminal record.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
But
what
any
I've
man
heard.
can own a shotgun. And that so that technically means that, you know, if you live in the city, technically there'd be no reason for you to own a shotgun. You own a shotgun if you've got land, if you own chickens and if you've got livestock.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of people that, you know, would go clay pigeon shooting at the weekend.
Yeah.
And they would go to certain clubs that, you know, would affiliate that. Or they'd go on long weekends, you know, up to Balmoral or further.
Or they go real pigeon pheasant shooting.
Well, that's only certain times of the year though for that.
Yeah.
But in the UK now, they've changed the laws. You can't just shoot a pigeon. You can't just shoot a magpie anymore. You can't shoot corvids. Everything is all under license now. So you have to have a reason. The farmer has to have proof that
So
he's actually done a test.
Pigeons and crows and magpies aren't vermin anymore that can.
No, they're no. So they can now terrorize.
They can strip crops, man.
Yep.
They can.
Yeah.
I guess what
it's very hard to prove until the crops have come through and there's no crops there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean they. So are they allowed to have
bird scarers?
Yeah, bird scarers and stuff.
Yeah, they can do that. Bird scarers, but it's not live rounds.
Right. So, I think if I was a farmer, I'd be setting off the fucking bird scarers every 5 minutes. I'd just have rounds going off, because the thing is with the bird scarers, the birds aren't stupid.
The crows are clever. The crows are super clever. They come from the ravens, and I don't know if you know how clever ravens.
Yeah,
super clever.
Yeah, they can talk, man. They can mimic.
Yeah, it's a wizard's pet, isn't it? A raven.
And the raven was Odin's bird, wasn't it?
Yeah, there you go.
The Allfather. So, I got my Defends UK. Right. Okay. That was Dave's. That was your YouTube channel, was it? Defends UK. I mean, what? I don't get it. So you said something on your YouTube channel, and they thought, "Oh, we're gonna have to take his guns off him." I mean, they wouldn't let me have a gun anyway because I've got a criminal record. But how? Oh. Sorry, I want to start shouting. And
I'm interested to know what was on Dave's.
I'm interested to know what you said. I'm interested to know what you said that flagged you. Are you talking about insurrections? Are you talking about taking over the Houses of Parliament? Free speech. Yeah.
Guy Fawkes.
We the closest thing we have to a constitution is the Magna Carta, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've heard that's been denulled for a little while now.
I've heard that. I heard that
they managed
always
it had to be signed. It had to be signed at a certain date, and it went over because it was Christmas or something.
Well, because I heard that because of when it was signed, by the king, Parliament didn't exist. And therefore, the only people that can dissolve it is the people, because it was made by the people for the people. And the king agreed, and it was before Parliament. It outdates Parliament. So Parliament cannot do. They should not be able to do fuck all to it, and
Well,
neither can the king. Neither can the king. The king can't
that's
touch
when
it either.
the Roundheads and the
Cromwell.
battle between the two, wasn't it?
Cromwell, yeah. I mean, that was
Allegedly.
I think essentially that was that whole thing was just it was a bait and switch. No, they knew that they'd lost control.
Yeah.
They had to maintain control. They knew they'd lost it, and they weren't going to be able to carry on with this whole monarchy bullshit. We weren't having it anymore. They had to make the people feel like they'd been given some power. But when you look at the early days of Parliament, the only people that could vote were landowners. You were only a landowner if you were related somehow or connected somehow to the monarchy.
Yeah.
So the only people that could vote were people that were basically in bed with the monarchy.
But I think what you've also got to realise is that the monarchy required an army. And so it was the civilians that had to produce this army and then they've got to feed this army. And so civilians played a huge part in taking over other countries. You know, they didn't know it themselves at the time. It's all compartmentalized, just like almost everything, you know. And so some people were treated very well because they then got the trades that was necessary to then take on another campaign. Other people were bled dry by their taxes to pay for this campaign. So there was always this, you know, divide as well between a certain society. Otherwise, you know, there was a slight bit of capitalism that was always happening because that's what got things going. And I think Dr. D, he really knew that. And when I think it was Elizabeth I, when she took over from the Tudor period, there was only about 110,000 nobles in London at the time. But in 4 years, that was almost 1 million. And that was by bringing in influential people from Europe to create London with this, you know, it had a name, it had a status, whereas before it didn't have it.
Is that when the city of
City of London was created, pretty much, yeah. They created a wall within the city to protect it, and that's since then it's had its own police force since then, which is separate from the rest of the police force.
They were all Masons.
Yeah, exactly.
They were all Freemasons.
Yeah.
Hey Joe, how you doing? Yeah, were your ears burning? I mentioned
your name. Yeah. I brought her in.
About you in vain. Absolutely not. No, I was talking about light language, Joe. We were talking about light language, and Squirrel was saying how when he listened and he kind of relaxed into it, he was able to basically not repeat, because he wasn't listening to you say it and then repeat it. His mouth was it's like he knew what you were going to
Knew the
say.
next word or
Knew
the
the
next
word.
sound. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was connecting to some of the sounds, like he was making connections, and there was recognition, as if, you know, it was a language that you did know at some time, or wasn't it? It was
Yeah. Yeah. Very distant though, or, you know, almost like a childlike
or maybe a
state.
different life, maybe a different life.
Yeah. Yeah, quite possibly. You know.
But I was saying about, because Voynich was saying earlier, I did a stream earlier on my 007 channel, and Voynich was saying about how we should create our own language. And I said, well, that's sort of not that you're creating your own language, but you
It's
are
already been
speaking.
created. Yeah.
You're already speaking a language that you can bet your bottom dollar they don't understand, because it's a light language. They don't understand the light. That's the whole point. That's
Mm.
why they're so pissed off with us,
Such a
because
low frequency.
we have a connection to the light. We've got the light inside us, you know, a lot of the shine, isn't it? The shining.
Mm.
You've got
Yeah.
the shine, and they don't. And they can see how much strength it gives us. And the only way they can feel that strong is by exerting power over others. They can't
Yeah.
they can't feel that strong in themselves. They have to exert their own will and their own power onto other people, and they have to hurt people. They have to scare people to make themselves feel as powerful as they can see and they know that we are. And that we get trodden into the fucking dirt. We get stripped of everything. We get put in situations where they would end their own life in a heartbeat, because they couldn't imagine anything quite as horrific or embarrassing or humiliating or degrading. They couldn't imagine it happening to themselves. They'd kill themselves. And they watch us go through it on more than one occasion,
Yeah.
and stand up and brush ourselves off and say, right, who's fucking next? They don't like it. That's why they're so pissed off. That's why they hate us so much.
Well, they try and, you know, produce fear on the TV every day to trigger people, you know.
Keep
It has
everybody
been
in
like
that.
that for, yeah.
Well, since 1981, if you know, going by Michelle Gibson's observations, it's been since 1981. It's been a steady stream of fear campaigns, one after the other, and it's been either war, terrorism, or natural disasters.
Yeah.
War, terrorism, natural disaster, terrorism again, then a war, then a natural disaster, then another natural disaster, then terrorism, then a war, and there's been this constant since 1981. This constant. Well, you never know. You could just
Pretty
get
much
killed.
every 9-10 years, isn't it? There's exactly repeat for the previous half generation.
They have to
And
keep
they
it going.
overlap each other, you know.
They have to keep it going, man. They have to keep it going, because if they're not constantly reinstalling that fear paradigm, we'll get, we'll get too full of our boots. We'll start to realize our own potential. If people stop fearing each other, they'll start communicating and working together and building things, thinking for themselves. So, got to keep them scared. I was watching Hollow playing the game, right? And he demonstrates it so perfectly. He's playing this game, and the game's so intense. He's kind of doesn't really know what he's saying, and he stops talking, and he's playing the game. And then at the end, he gets through that bit, that section. He says, "Oh God, my God, I'm really sorry. I was so scared. I didn't even know. I couldn't even think. I was so scared. I couldn't even think.
You were put
Just
put
reacting.
Oh, it's like a dungeon program, isn't it? That kicks in. You know, and I think once you realise that is a dungeon program, at that time you can then move on. I think until you know that, you're just gonna see it every time.
How many people have had the dream, the reoccurring nightmare, where something's chasing them, something that is just terrifying is chasing them, and it's right on their heels, and they just.
Well, I can actually tell you the first time I did salvia.
Yeah.
I was in a pub on the top floor, and it was summer, and I had a friend over from Southend, and we got onto the roof, and we put a little bit in a joint and smoked it, and nothing happened. So we went downstairs, went into my kind of little apartment. I put some meat in a bong, sat on the futon, and my mate Kobe, he turned the TV down. It was still on.
Mm.
And I lit it and pulled it. And it was Xena Warrior that was on the TV.
Oh, yeah, Xena Princess Warrior. That was comical, wasn't it?
So the next thing, I've been transported into the TV, because that was the last, my last conscious recollection was, oh shit, the TV's still on.
Mm.
And that was it. I then took my eyes away from the TV and I started to look at the wall. And the wall, it went from 3D to 2D and then started to twist in kind of like a parallel. And it was completely darkness below it and it was completely darkness above it. And everything was obscured in the middle. And every time I was straining my eyes, I was coming back to reality. But if I was relaxing, it was starting to go into this very thin line with darkness either side of it.
Okay.
I just thought, after the fourth or fifth time of straining to keep my reality, I just thought, well, I'm doing this. The whole point of it is to do it.
Yeah.
Just relax.
Why am I fighting it? Why am I fighting it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the next thing, I was in the TV. And I was the character that was being chased by this creature that was. I had to open the next door, and I closed the door behind me, and I kept running, and there was another door, and every time I opened that door, I could hear the door behind me being smashed open.
Mm.
And every time I closed the door, there was another door, and I kept on going. And this creature was shouting, "Give me the amulet!"
Yeah.
And I'm holding on to the bong at this time. And not to my knowledge, but Toby, my mate, was leaning over me, and he couldn't believe what was going on. He was like, "What's actually happening? You know, tell me about the trip at the time." And he was pulling me with the bong, and "Give us the bong! I want to go! I want to go!" And this was then heightening my trip in itself. And then I just realised all I have to do is just reach over and turn the TV off.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I touched the TV off, everything came all back. Reality came snapping back like that. And it was probably about 90 seconds to about 2 minutes of flicking back between the different realities.
Yeah.
In that little short time. And then
That's
Toby
it.
said, I want to go.
A lot happened, but in such a short space of time.
Oh yeah. It felt like half an hour.
When you're there, yeah, when you're there, time it's a time dilation. There's time dilation when you're actually under the influence. So yeah, like a couple of minutes feels like half an hour. That happens in real life, man, with like.
Oh yeah, well I would have thought that at the point your heart the pupils dilate, everything else dilates.
Yeah.
You know. But my mate Toby, he said, right, I need to go. So I made sure the TV was off. There was no disturbance. There was nothing else.
Yeah.
I sat at the other side of the bed, so he had this bit of room. He sat right on the edge of the bed, pulled his little bit, put the bong down, and just sat upright. And then he slowly, ever so slowly, leaned back while still in the sitting position on the edge of the bed,
with his legs still in that position.
Still in that sitting position.
Like he's frozen.
His legs, his feet were still on the floor. No, his feet were still on the floor. But he leant back really slowly. Now, maybe for 90 seconds before his head hit the bed. And as soon as it hit the bed, he sat upright. He was like, man, like, you're going to have to give me 5 minutes just to try and get my thoughts together to try and even explain what was happening.
Yeah.
And he basically re-engineered his thoughts to the moment that he'd put the bong down. He looked at the corner of the room, and there was a crack in the corner of the room. And for a minute second, there was like a light that came out of that crack.
Yeah.
And almost everything went bright. And then he was in that crack, looking through, seeing him and me on the bed, everything else that was in the room from that perspective.
Right.
And then from that perspective, he saw a little bump on the floor. And he zoomed in, and it was a mountain range, but it was like in micro.
Yeah. Yeah.
He'd gone right into the layers and and then he turned around and saw everything from that perspective. And he said he was traveling around the room in about 4 or 5 different places from behind us, seeing everything.
See, I think that's real. I think what happens is you get this access.
Your brain has already mapped the room, and you're accessing that information.
And
that part of the brain that
your consciousness is kind of accessing the consciousness of the room or something, like it's
cache case, as people say, it's always
crazy. I've never done salvia. The first time I'd ever heard of salvia.
That was the first time, because it was in a room. It was in Brighton, in Brixton, in a pub. It's not the best time to do kind of stuff.
In a pub. You're smoking salvia in a pub. What does it smell like when it burns?
Oh no, it's just like, well, it's just part of the sage family. So
Oh right. So it just smells like burns. Yeah, it just smells like one of those silly herbal cigarettes.
Yeah, not even one of them.
You can get away with smoking it in the not now, but back in the 90s.
You couldn't because you couldn't enjoy it, could you? It's not a joint, is it? It's not. It is a shamanistic experience, and if you don't do it as one, then you're going to have real bad troubles, because you're not going to expect. You're going to expect demons. You're going to expect anything that is in your ideology at that time.
or in your
You know,
subconscious. Yeah.
of course they are. You know, all these people say, "Oh, look, you know, the devil's going to come and get you." Well, of course, the devil's not going to come because I don't believe in the devil because that's not part of my programming.
Yeah.
I know about the devil because it's in lots of people's programming.
Although,
And
right,
I can associate what you're calling demons and devils, but I would call them something else, or I would, you know,
I call them cheeky monkeys.
cheeky monkeys. Yeah.
I still maintain that half of the power that they have comes through the name, comes through the name demon or
Yeah.
jinn. Because it's got a narrative attached to it. The narrative creates an image in your mind, which, I mean,
You've conjured up.
some people say, "I'm not afraid of demons. I'm not afraid of demons." But if a demon truly manifested in front of you,
That's
what
the whole
would your
point.
reaction be? You know,
Yeah.
it's like
Your
you can
worst
say you're
nightmare.
not until the moment it happens. And the thing is, I've experienced a cheeky monkey that manifested itself as a pillar of smoke. And one of the things that they do is they emanate terror. You know, it pulses off of them, and that makes you feel, that's what makes you feel fit. The thing is, the crazy thing about it is they're doing exactly what the Democrats are doing over in America. They're projecting.
Yeah.
They're projecting their own fear onto you so that you experience it and you're afraid of them. But the thing is, they're afraid of you.
Yeah.
They're more
Well,
afraid of
few of
you
them.
than
Few
you
of them.
should ever be of them. Because if they're afraid that if you realize what they are, if you realize who they are, and if you realize your authority over them, they have no power. They have no power because you deny it them. That's where they get their powers, from your fear, from your acknowledgement that they are a powerful thing that could still, corrupt you or steal your soul or make life really bad for you or do whatever.
No one can steal your soul. You can only give it away. You know,
Yeah.
and you can give it away in many different ways. You can be tricked into giving it away. You know, and a lot of people recently have been tricked.
Or coerced.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Tricked and coerced. It's and how have they done that? That's all been through fear. That's the only way they were able to do that. Well, no, if I don't do it, I'm going to lose my job. If I don't do it,
But
I'm not going to.
who didn't fear though? Who we don't fear it. We don't fear it at all. You know, just like Jason says, there is nothing to fear. There's never been anything to fear. That's one of my little, mantras.
I mean,
Everything's going to be okay because I've got through whatever has happened in the past, today, now, right now. I can say everything's okay. And whatever happens tomorrow, don't worry because it will be okay.
And don't worry about it today.
No, exactly.
If something happens tomorrow, let it happen tomorrow. Don't
It's
let it
happening
happen
tomorrow for a
again.
reason, not today.
Don't try to predict it, and don't play it over in your mind over and over again before it's even happened, because you don't know what's going to happen. It's the future. So the best thing's just not to. Don't waste your time worrying about things that haven't happened yet.
Exactly.
All you do, because all we do is we're putting that energy out. If we're worrying about things that haven't happened yet, all we're doing is we're reinforcing that timeline. the whole point is to not be in that timeline. We're going to be in a timeline where actually things work out in favor for us. And that's why I was really disappointed when I heard that Trudeau had been exonerated. Because I just thought, oh shit, we're still on that timeline. Right, okay. All right then. Gonna have to focus harder, man. Gonna have to focus my visualizations harder. Would have been nice to have seen him not get exonerated. I'm just watching
there was
little
a few predictions that Jason had said previously. There's a few people that I was hoping that one of his predictions would work on, but that's not happened just yet. Trudeau was one of them.
Well, it's the corrupt ruler thing, isn't it? It's the corrupt ruler thing will be replaced. I think is that's the one that I'm looking out for. So, I mean, we can hold out hope that it's Biden. You know,
I'd like to hope so.
I don't know what's going on with that now. With the whole thing about this whole narrative about the documents, finding the secret classified
now, isn't it? That only hit the news, front news for a couple of days, and
and then a
there was a missing
balloon
girl.
And all these other things happen, and it falls to the bottom of the news pile and just forgotten about that.
Just like the missing $1 billion the day after. Was it the day after the Twin Towers?
Oh, no, wasn't it $1 trillion?
Oh, it was the day before. Was it the day before?
I think it was $1 trillion. It wasn't $1 billion. It was $1 trillion.
Yeah, trillions. It's
$2 trillion or something. And they were supposed to be opening up an investigation into it.
That's right. Yeah. They said there would be no investigation because of 9/11.
Well, because all of the documents were held in Building 7.
All the documents were held inside. Yeah, exactly.
And Building 7 was brought down by a controlled demolition.
Well, it all was.
Well, yeah, it all was, but they've admitted that Building 7 was. That's the point. They're like, yeah, it was all a controlled demolition, but they've admitted that. Well, yeah, we just happened. It just happened to be that Building 7 was just all geared up. We had all the C4 was laid there already, so we thought, well, why not bring it down now? No, I don't know. What they? Yeah, there's no point in even thinking about how they try to justify that or quantify it at all. How did they do, like, because the charges have to be set in strategic points in load bearing. All the charges have to be set in the load bearing, and it came down perfectly. It came down like the others did, didn't it? Nice, straight drop down.
Yeah, on itself.
Yeah, collapsed.
It didn't go to one side. It didn't.
No.
It was all terminal velocity. Now, the one thing of that day, there was a taxi driver, and he was on the freeway, on one of the freeway big bypasses, going over the Pentagon, and he was on the news saying that he saw the plane hit the Pentagon. That was what he was reporting on the news.
He saw it from the freeway.
He saw it from the freeway. Yet an independent reporter had his car and him with the policeman doing. He was somewhere completely different at the time with his vehicle, and he took the cab one day, a few days afterwards, and he had his recorder going on with him, and he was in the back of the cab, and he said to him, you know, I'm a reporter myself, and I realised I've been doing a little bit of looking into this, and you weren't actually where you said you were, because I've got pictures of you actually in a different direction to where you said that you were actually facing as you were driving. You said as you were driving eastbound, you saw the Amazon straight in front of you.
A real investigative reporter.
Yeah, he was in the back of his taxi. And he said, I've got a family. The taxi driver said, I've got a family. That's all he said.
That could mean, I mean, what I think what that probably means is he was offered a deal he couldn't refuse.
He can't.
Family.
He didn't have anything to say other than, you know, I had to go along with whatever. They had to pick a taxi. They had to have someone to look like they were so innocent. So it's the yellow cab. Yellow cabs are everywhere. And he was given a script. And he said, I didn't see anything. You know. But he didn't physically say that. He just said, I've got a family.
What about the guy that was interviewed on the street that he was just a Joe Blogs, but he was able to give a structural analysis kind of thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Why the building come down?
Yeah.
Just some random guy on the street.
You know, but they made so many mistakes. The media made so many mistakes that day. It makes a mockery out of, you know. And unless your brain is wired up to even want to look, you ain't gonna look. And that's what they're hoping, you know.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like when it happened, in the moment that it happened, I thought this is bullshit. This is absolute bullshit. But because of the way what was going on in my life, and you know, I was trying to put my life back together after my car accident and everything, and it had only been like 9 months since my car accident, so I had a lot on my mind. I had a fucking lot on my mind, and I wasn't. I just dismissed it as, you know.
As soon as they said there was no F-18s or F-15s in the air to intercept, that was enough. They let it happen because it was all part of the.
Dude, as soon as they said, "We found one of the terrorists' passports on the street,"
slightly burnt cover, but we still managed to get the name.
Nigel Betts, shout out, dude, and Sama as well. Good to see you again, dude. I hope you've had a good sleep. Joe Gifford, Sama Dragon is in Melbourne, so he's in the same country as you, my lovely. Because Joe is in Australia.
Is she Perth? Joe?
I can't
remember.
Queensland.
Melbourne.
I think.
Queensland.
I think Joe's in Queensland. So up near the
that's top Gold Coast.
Whereas Melbourne is down. Melbourne's between Perth.
Down in the middle. Yeah.
Down in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah.
We were talking about Dan Andrews.
Oh yeah. Funny enough, I was working with a chap today called Danny Andrews.
Really?
Small world.
Common name, I think.
Yeah.
More of a common name. But it is a small world. East Coast. Melbourne's on the east coast.
East Coast, yeah.
Oh, well,
It's southeast.
above. So it's above. Is it above or below
You got
Sydney?
Queensland, Sydney, Melbourne. Is
Right.
that right?
I don't know.
Joe will tell you.
I don't know. All I know is my best mate moved to Australia when we were 21. He moved to Australia, and he never came back. And he married the editor of, or an editor of Vogue magazine.
Mm.
So she was earning so much money that he just did a part-time bar job and surfed his entire life.
Yeah,
And this was the guy that I started surfing with him. Me and him began surfing together when we were like 7 or 8 years old or something. We started surfing, and every year we went to down to the south coast and went surfing with the two families went camping every year, and me and Carl went surfing. And the bugger we talked about it when we were young. Like, oh, it'd be so cool to go to Australia, man, and go and surf the Gold Coast. And he went and did it. I went to
Let's
Greece,
have a
and
dream like that and follow it through, you know. I was lucky enough to go to Australia when I was 17. I went out there. It only was supposed to be a 3-week holiday with the parents. But because I had a holiday visa, I decided to stay out there for a bit longer. So I was out there for nearly 11 months. But I couldn't get full work and stuff because I was only 17 at the time. So I did a degree in cocktail flaring.
All right.
You know, Tom Cruise at the time, he'd just done Cocktail,
Yeah.
1990. 17 years old, English boy in a classroom full of 16 girls and one other guy. That was a good 6 weeks in Sydney. That was.
Did you get any good?
Yeah. No, I after that, I had to wait till March when I was 18, and then I managed to get a working visa, and I worked in, even though I was only 18. There was Australia Wonderland, which was a big water park, and I'd actually come over with a big bag of 12-inch vinyl.
Yeah.
So I had music that they hadn't heard ever.
What's
And
the
as
music?
soon as I played a few tunes, they were like, "Oh, would you be able to do a couple of hours every other Friday, Saturday night?"
Turn into a DJ.
So I turned into the local DJ for a couple of months there. And my parents said, you know, I'd give you a little bit of money as long as I was doing something. As long as I was doing something and not just, you know,
Bumming around
taking money. Try and look after myself and actually learn something in life.
Yeah, as long as you were making the effort.
Yeah, I mean, in between, I was looking at, you know, pizza places, and there was Pizza Hut, and there was one job of killing cockroaches, basically in the kitchen, just killing cockroaches. And I thought, you can't do that job, can you? 16, 17 years old.
What's your job? I kill cockroaches.
Kill cockroaches, mate.
They call me roach killer.
That was the job just before washing up the plates, you see, and you get, before washing up the plates, you then do washing up the tins that they get cooked on, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the because it was so far away from where I was living, I was earning $16 a night, and I think the taxi was $12.
Right.
So it wasn't worth it because I had to prove. So I had something. extra
Yeah.
in the pocket.
The
So I
thing
try to
is,
be out.
back in the 1990s, the cost of living in Australia was a bit different to what it is now. Back
Oh yeah.
then, you got $2.50 to the pound, 2.5 Australian dollars to the pound,
But
and
even everything in Australia was cheaper at that time. You know, so
everything was cheap.
a pack of
Rent was
cigarettes
cheap,
was
food was
only like
cheap.
$3, $4 for cigarettes, and that was for
Yeah.
40 cigarettes. You know,
Yeah,
or a pack
and
of
you get
30. You know.
a pint of beer was cheap, food was cheap,
Oh,
everything
meat.
was cheap,
It was just ridiculously cheap. You know.
and good quality as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Good wine, beer. You know, the little twoies.
This wasn't meant to be the deal, man. You know, this wasn't meant to be the deal. When I was growing up, things were supposed to get better. You know,
Well,
when
you're
when I
supposed to
was
learn from your mistakes, aren't you?
yeah, but the trouble is, we learn from our mistakes,
But the fences keep getting higher.
but they don't. They're not learning. Well, no, we're learning individually. We're learning from our mistakes, but as a collective, we are not.
Yeah, we're not learning.
As a
No, exactly.
collective,
It's
we're
a
being
throwaway
kept
society.
calm.
We're asking for a throwaway society.
It's like those that forget their history are doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
And what happens every century? History keeps repeating itself. Well, we're not
then don't
forgetting our
forget,
history. It's
if
not that we're
everything's
forgetting.
gone digital as well, Rich.
I like what
If all our history is on digitally, and if everything has gone from book to digital,
yeah, this is what Jason's saying, isn't it? This is the importance of books. This is the importance of the printed,
yeah.
like the printed words in books and stuff.
Did you see his recent one about AI?
I right. Listen, I've got quite a firm opinion of AI, having watched a couple of people that are supposedly expert in it, but and were involved in creating it. I think wasn't Andrea Certus? He's had something to do with ChatGPT. But the thing is, all ChatGPT is a word prediction thing. It's giving you the best prediction. But if you then ask it what it's just told you, and ask you to if you ask it to explain to you what it's just told you and why it's told you that, it doesn't even know what it just told you, because all it's doing is predicting words. It's an algorithm to predict words.
It's reacted to the words you've just given it.
Yeah, it doesn't know what it's saying to you. So if it doesn't know what it said to you and it can't explain itself to you, how is that intelligence?
No, it's not, is it? I mean,
No,
at the end of the
it's
day,
not
AI cannot be. It can
sentient.
only be programmed.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like, people that are really into AI get really offended by it. And if anybody's been involved in developing it, it's like with Andreas Zertas. Dude, Andreas, what I'm saying is you are infinitely more intelligent than any AI that exists.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And you will always be more intelligent than any AI that ever exists, because AI will never ever be able to it will never be able to solve moral dilemmas. It can't feel, it cannot empathize, it doesn't know what compassion is.
It only has a limited imagination of what it has in its databank.
It doesn't have an imagination. It has no imagination.
Well,
The only imagination it has is made up,
exactly is it's what it has in its databanks.
and there's nothing new under the sun.
No.
Right? So all it's doing is regurgitating.
Because everything is recycled anyway. Yeah.
So and when it's supposed to be creating things that are new, it's not. They're not coming from its imagination. It's taking every single picture that's ever been drawn and using that. It's using, I mean, I guess you could say, because there's no original thought, people are incapable of original thoughts. Every thought that has ever been thought, it goes out into the ether, and therefore, when we have a thought, is it our own thought, or are we picking it up from the ether?
Yeah.
The ether is the data bank. So essentially, we're the AI. Like we're the, except we're not artificial. That's the thing.
No.
We're not artificial. We're not, because artificial just means fake. It means not original. It means a copy of the original.
Yeah,
that's what artificial is. So if you could say that the original intelligence was the intelligence responsible for creating this, for creating everything, for creating what's here, for creating the realm. We are a fractal of that intelligence. We contain, because of a connection, whatever, because of the ability to receive information.
Yeah, we all have the ability for intelligence within us.
Right. But true intelligence isn't about how much you know, or what you know, or how logical you are.
No, it's how you use what you know.
That's wisdom. Intelligence, I think, is an emotional thing. I think if you're not emotionally intelligent, you are not intelligent. If you have no emotional intelligence, you have no real intelligence. You can be intellectually intelligent. You can be logically intelligent. But if you're not emotionally intelligent, it's like geniuses. What's a true genius? A true genius is somebody that is emotionally intelligent as well as all the other things.
Because you can also be an emotionless genius.
Well, an emotionless genius, if they're not able to access their emotion in certain situations and use that emotion intelligently, or read that emotion intelligently, if they're not able to do that, then they're not a genius. They've never been a genius.
No.
They might be able to do the most complex calculations in their mind without a calculator, and have a photographic memory, and be able to recite every single word of every page of every book that they've ever written, that they've ever read. But they can't work out. They've got absolutely no fucking idea what to say to somebody who is in tears in front of them because of something that's happened.
Or even put their own clothes on.
Yeah. Tie their own shoelaces. Like some of the most, some people that are classed as genius, some people that have been put forward as genius have had to have left and right put on their fucking shoes.
I worked with a chap once, and I actually went to my top boss and I said, "You cannot give him a chainsaw." I fear for his own safety, let alone anyone else.
Do you know what? That's the worst thing, isn't it? When you see somebody and you just know what's going to happen, because you think anybody else is not that stupid to go and try and
for the day. I was waiting for the day for them to say, "I think you're ready for the chainsaw," because they were never out with him at all. They were just going with what his word was, not even consulting me, who I'd been, with him for the last 6 months. And as soon as I found out he got his pair of chainsaw trousers before he got his chainsaw, I went in there and I said, "Look, you might want to ask him a few basic questions first, because there are a few questions that he can't even read." I mean, his job in the truck every morning basically was, I was getting him to find the address of where we were going, and to actually read the street map. We got rid of the actual sat nav, and we were going as low as there because we were in London, finding the streets, and he didn't know his left from his right, and he's 19 years old.
Wow. Right.
He couldn't, because you use an X and Y, X and Y axis on a map coordinates. He just didn't know which one to say first, even though you say the same thing over and over again: X, Y, X, Y, X, Y, X, Y.
And
But then he didn't even know the alphabet.
You've got to wonder how a 19-year-old lad
has got this far.
Has got that far, yeah. Without
it's just blagging it. Yeah, it's blagging it.
Gift of the gab. Was he dyslexic?
Yeah. He didn't do any writing at all whatsoever. I filled all the paperwork out. He managed to sign his name with a scribble. He always asked what the date was, and he could write the numbers of the date.
I mean, was he that sort of inept that you couldn't trust if he'd just
I couldn't trust him with any of the tools.
Or by the chain while it was running still,
It was, well, I'd have to tell him exactly what I needed to get done, and then I'd have to go over it afterwards. Every single job. And we'd go to the same place every single time, and he'd go, "So what are we going to do now?" I'm like, "This is the 6th time we've been here." First of all, you get the strimmer out, and you trim around the edges. And he starts trimming out. He goes the wrong way around, and I'm like, every time we've come here, I tell you to go around the other way because it flicks the stones into the grass and not at the windows of anywhere else. It's quite simple.
Yeah. No common sense. No common sense. No
common sense. But
no forethought.
If you were to mention a game of football, say in Belgium last week, he would know the score.
And every bloody penalty.
He could give you the Senegal World Cup team, of 1999 when they first put their team together. He could name the whole lot. He was a Manchester United fan. He spent every single penny he had going to all of their games when they played away in this area, London. And he had every single shirt.
So he had a gift.
He had a gift
for
he knew everything. He knew their ages. He knew when they started, what teams that they all played for, their transfer fees.
It's obviously because that was something that he had a great interest in. So he
could make an amazing football commentator.
Yeah.
or even if he was just next to the commentator, just giving the information, giving all the pundit, all everything. But there he is. He's, you know.
Why is he trying to be? Why does he want to be a researcher?
Well, he started off just cutting grass, and he got bored of cutting grass, you know. And I think the boss wants to, you know, try and help him and moving along stuff, but you know, it's the wrong kind of field for some people.
Cutting grass can be therapeutic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If you're doing it on a commercial or, you know, on a commercial,
it's difficult. If you're doing it on a commercial site, you've got to bang it out. You got to get, you know, they want you to do it. But I'm my own boss now. I've got my own company. My last job is as, you know, you're only as good as your last job.
Yeah.
That's how I roll, basically. And so I get repeat custom. That's majority of my work is repeat custom and word of mouth. So I hardly advertise. I'm busy. I've just done 3 weeks of fencing, taking out an old existing chain link fence. There's about 2 tons of metal. I had to get all that out of an old bridle path. And now I've got 6 days of putting a new fence in.
Are they opening the bridle path again?
The bridle path's always been there.
Oh, just cleaning it.
We're just clearing all the old metal out, and corrugated iron. There was an old pigsty from 1970 down there, and the kids had gone down there years ago, and they actually blew it up and collapsed the building, and there was lots of old corrugated iron and stuff like that. We just cleared out. We just found a well down there as well. There used to be an old house about 100 years ago, but there's no remnants of the house anymore. But yeah, so they're just rejuvenating the habitat that's already down there, taking out all the dead, dying, and dangerous.
I was doing stuff like that because I've done similar work. Not obviously clearing out different things. I had a friend in Winchester who was sick and he couldn't, he had a terminal illness. He couldn't do anything. And his garden was his pride. Like for so long, his garden had been his pride and joy, and it had just completely overgrown. Totally overgrown. All the rose bushes had all grown out. All the grass was up, knee high, and it was nettles and thorns and
brambles.
Brambles everywhere. And so I said to him, I'll sort that out for you. I'll go and sort it out. So I spent a weekend clearing it. I started at one side and I just went across, and I just loved watching. It's like at the end of the day when I'd finished the day, the work that I'd done, it was a little bit closer. It was getting a little, and as the days go by, you see the garden materialize.
Oh yeah. I try and take
a
lot of before and after photos as well.
The feeling of accomplishment. The feeling of accomplishment afterwards is brilliant.
I've had a few real big hedges. I don't know if you've seen the hedges that I've done on my channel, but I've had a few more recently, and you've got to get your hedge reduced before the nesting season, basically. So it's kind of the middle of March towards. It used to be the end of March was the start of nesting season.
I used to cut
because of the global warming, everything's kind of stretched out, and people are saying, "Oh, you shouldn't really cut your hedges before after the first couple of weeks of March." And I'm like, well, you're not disturbing it. There's no birds actually. If they've made their nests, they would have made their nests by now, And you usually find that pigeons will actually build 3 nests in one at the same time, and they will then pick the best nest out of the 3 available that they've got. So it's it's a tricky thing, but I've always go through the hedgerow if I'm reducing it anyway, just to make sure you are taken in, but there's nothing that this time of year would be nesting. With roosting in there, yeah, absolutely. But there's plenty of tricks to roost on.
Hedges, man. I like to cut. We had with a hedge that went all the way down one side of the garden, and it was conifer.
Yeah.
But then it turned into hawthorn. Like half
Oh,
of it was
nasty stuff.
conifer, and the other half was hawthorn. And
Oh.
my God, hawthorn, man. The conifer was, obviously, no worries cutting conifer, but that bloody hawthorn, and the hedge was like, I don't know, 10 foot, about 10 foot. So you needed a
just too tall enough that you're gonna either need a ladder.
Yeah,
so you got to get quite close up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And leaning over with the with the hedge, and then you get to the bit that's too big for the bloody trimmer, so you have to get the bolt, the clippers out and lean out trying to get it without getting stabbed.
I got stabbed with a bit of blackthorn. This was 2 years ago now, and I got it into my knuckle. Right in there. I don't know if you can see it. There's a scar going all the way up.
You get infected.
Where they opened up. They had to open up my knuckle, and they literally pulled it out, and it was 1.5 millimeters. Literally, all it was 1.5 millimeters. But it was in about 2 centimeters into my knuckle. Nasty.
Shit,
but
man.
It healed up really quickly within about 2 weeks.
God, imagine that if you hadn't.
Oh no, it was within 2 days. It was enough for me to want to have my fingers chopped off.
Mm.
Oh
God, it was in there for 2 days. Oh yeah, you realised after 2 days. Oh shit, this is like.
Oh,
yeah,
within an hour, I was down the hospital when they were like, we need an X-ray first.
Mm.
So they did an ultrasound basically, and they said, yeah, that's so deep in there. Even if we do a little keyhole now, it's we're gonna have to put you into hospital. So I went straight into the hospital, and they said, right, we'll give you a load of painkillers the 24 hours before, and we'll operate in the morning. So I came back in the morning, and at that point, my hand was twice the size of the other hand.
Shit, yeah.
And they numbed my arm literally from the shoulder downwards, and they opened it up, and I was watching it as they actually did it. It's normally they say, "Oh, turn away," and they put the cloths up. And I was like, "No, come on, I'm interested. I want to see what the whole cause of the whole problem
as long as I can't feel it, you carry on, man.
Exactly,
I want to see
carry on." And they said, "All right, well, all right," and opened it up, and it's just the minutest of little thing, you think it's the smallest of the smallest thing.
So much pain.
So much pain. Yeah.
You imagine if that had been like 300 years ago.
Oh well,
how would they have dealt with it 300 years ago? Do you think?
A lot of fire, a hot knife and fire.
Hmm.
You would have had a spoon, and they would have cauterized it. They would have basically opened it up and cauterized that whole area.
Hmm. Yeah, opened it up to get the bit out, and then just burnt it back together again.
Yeah.
Joe, have a great day. Sorry if you're still there. Have a great day.
Yeah. Take care.
Patrick Roberts, how you doing, man? Welcome. Yeah, man. It's going to be interesting to see what happens next. Roxanne sent me a meme today saying, hang on. Where was it? Oh no, she shared it. She shared it on YouTube. That's what it was. It was. She shared it on her community, I think, on YouTube. So 2020. I can't remember. Hang on. I'm gonna find it. Or maybe it was on Instagram. I can never bloody remember where I see things. I see so many different things. Yeah, there we go. 2023. Welcome to the Upside Down. The 2023, the year that normies believe that we are dealing with alien encounters, and the conspiracy theorists do not.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have officially entered the Twilight Zone.
The Twilight Zone.
We've everything's.
I think Sven put that on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
I think I saw something similar to that on Facebook. I only do Facebook and YouTube. I try not to get involved with all the other platforms. You do get lost if you haven't got the time.
Dude, I had to stop using Facebook as soon as I realised. In 2009, when I was posting stuff about chemtrails, the responses that I was getting, the lack of response, the lack of.
You hit something like chemtrails, you're right on the target there.
Yeah.
Because it's something visual that everyone can see if they just look up.
And when they're denying it, when they're saying, "Oh no, it's just contrails," and you're like, "Dude, you're 50 years old."
So there are actual documents now, and there's a PDF from Harvard explaining about cloud seeding, and why they have been doing it for the last 35 years.
Yeah. Oh, more. They've been doing it for longer than that as well.
Well, they've been doing it secretly, but they've been doing it paid by, large corporations to actually research it, as well as finding out, what they've been doing. Because if they've been doing it for the last 50 years, they need to know exactly where they're up to at this moment in time. And how much they've been putting up there. There has to be a.
I want to know as well, right? Because some of these aircraft that are spraying, they're flying at such a height. It's more than likely that they're actually UAVs. They're unmanned air vehicles that are doing it.
Yeah.
Because they're doing it up at like 80,000 feet, 60,000 feet. They're spraying this, blanket.
Now, I've heard there's two sorts. There's stuff that comes up. There's stuff that comes down. But there's also stuff that goes up.
Well, they do it off the back of boats, don't they? They've got these huge, great big things on the back of boats, and they're pumping it out of the back of boats. So out in the Atlantic Ocean and the North Sea, and so that's obviously going up into the cloud, into the lower cloud levels, and then what they're spraying up in the ionosphere, that's 60,000 feet, isn't it? 60, 70,000 feet is the ionosphere. What they're spraying up there is coming down. A lot of it's staying up there, but it's the heavy metals and the aluminium and stuff that's coming down.
I think there's a lot of heavy metals that are out the ground already with the likes of Elon, though. And the new disposable batteries, which aren't disposable, You know, all these new batteries that, and they're full of lithium, which has never been out of the ground. You know, so you've got these small particles of this everywhere, everywhere. So then, you know, humans have now got another thing that they've got to deal with in the future, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a new thing. For them to say that they can only mine lithium in manned mines, yet that's never the case.
I heard that was one of the reasons that Elon wanted to make the robots was to mine the lithium. Which is a nice. That's a nice thought, rather than sending Chinese children and Indian
but
children.
Do you want ones with attachments on them like AR-15s and M40s?
The thing is,
one do backflips. You don't need those ones, do you?
But I don't believe that they can exist. I think it's a physical
impossibility. Only in CGI.
It's an actual physical impossibility for those robots to exist because of the weight.
Yeah, since we've been, I think we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago actually, and since then I've been seeing more and more of those little adverts come on. And it's like every time I can see that it's just not fluid, it's not real, it's just not. There'd be dents in the floor, there'd be scratches,
Man, there'd be
something else than
taking chunks out of the floor. They'd be splitting it. They'd be taking chunks out of the. If it's some sort of springy floor that they're on, the plastic cover, they'd destroy wherever it was that they'd be doing all of that.
It was a robot that was doing this one maneuver, and it was learning by its mistakes, as it were, and then it did it right at the very end, and then it did this kind of Usain Bolt pose at the end for doing it right, right at the very end, and its foot was right on the very edge, and it corrected it right at the very edge, and it was like, and everyone clapped and applauded, and it was like, fuck off.
It's like, hang on, a robot to have done that, well, it would have to be programmed into it, or is that robot sentient? Does it know that it's it would failed, it failed, then it did it right?
Yeah. Now give it an ego. Give it an ego quickly.
Yeah. It's just it just amazes me how it's because of the lack of critical thought.
They could have gone, oh, this robot's really dangerous because it's got an ego at the end of it. It's got its own ego. We didn't program that. That's what they should be saying.
Yeah, they should. Yeah, it should be. Hang on a second. What's this?
Hang on a second. Why have you done that?
Well, yeah, there's showboating.
Turn it off, please. Turn it off.
Showboating.
Turn it off.
But it's the complete lack of critical thought of intelligent people not using their critical thought to sit there and actually work it out and say, right, hang on a second. For this robot to exist, for it to be able to fire a gun, for it to be able to fire an AR-15, this robot's going to have to weigh more than a ton for it to be able to do it. For all of the machinery and everything that is involved, it's going to have to weigh an absolute ton.
It also needs someone to turn it on.
What are the physics of movement when you do, when you throw tons of metal up in the air and spin it round really quickly and get it to land on the floor? what does that look like? Right. In reality, what does that look like? Because that all I can see is just chunks of floor flying out. You know, if it's wooden, chunks of wood flying out. Whatever floor it is that they're going to put, the only floor that they'd be able to put it on that it wouldn't do anything would be a solid metal like steel. But even then, it would leave marks. But then you'd also have the added problem of slipping. It would slip, so we would need to have rubber feet on. Well, if it had rubber feet on, all that impact
It
is
wouldn't
going to
be doing
pass through that
exactly.
rubber in seconds. Those rubber boots are going to fly off. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work. There's no situation unless the only way it can work is if it doesn't weigh very much. If it doesn't weigh very much, it'll be able to do all that. But if it doesn't weigh very much, it's not going to be able to fire a fucking AR-15, is it?
People haven't thought this through.
People haven't thought it through. They really haven't thought it through. I thought it through straight away as soon as I saw.
Exoskeletons I can understand.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I can see. I mean, they look cool on. They look really
Aliens.
cool on Aliens. And what's the other one? Not Andromeda.
Universal Soldiers.
And
the Universal Soldier they have
with the Blue Giants. What's the one with it? And oh god, not Pandora.
I know what you mean.
Pandora.
No,
They go to Pandora. Avatar.
Avatar. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the sergeant at the end, wasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, oh god, those sort of robotic kind of two-legged, bipedal forklifts. That's what they are essentially. You could use them as forklifts. They've got great big fucking great big army combat knives, giant combat knives and all that bollocks. It's like, look, listen, think it through. Yes, technically it could work, but there's too much room for error. Driving one of those, moving one of those things, maneuvering it around like that, it wouldn't be able to fight like that. They've got them fighting like they're actually
just another tank, aren't you? Basically,
you're just another tank. You're not going to move very fast. You're not going to be able to move these lightning movements. That's not going to happen. It will be like this. Everything's slow motion because of hydraulics, because of the law of gravity,
fluid,
weight distribution, and all of those things. Weight distribution, that's a massive part of it. Like
pressure.
You have those arms swinging around like that.
Counterweight.
The legs need to be constantly moving to balance for that weight that's going to be swinging around like that. It's like anybody that's driven a fucking telescopic forklift truck and extended the forks and then tried to maneuver the vehicle with the forks extended, then you get an idea of weight distribution and the center of gravity and all that sort of stuff. It's like when you get to heavy weights, there's this law of physics that applies that you can't get past it. You can't cheat it. It's just the way it is. The heavier something is, the harder it is to maneuver.
Yeah, so you've got to have a low center of gravity, as it were.
The idea, like
the lower it is to the ground, the easier it is to move about.
Getting a man that's 300 pounds of pure muscle to behave like a ballerina with the dexterity and poise and grace of a ballerina or a gymnast, they can't do it, can they?
No.
But people seem to be able to believe that these robots can.
There was another one with the dogs, the robot dogs, and
Those I can believe a bit more, but I've seen
well,
them.
not the ones. There was about 90 of them, all in one room in a laboratory, and they're all doing the same dance and the same kind of maneuver, kind of thing. Some were slightly off, but you could tell that it was all mapping, and it was the same three there that were doing the same moves of the same three over there and same three over there, and next to it was doing slightly different, but it was doing it identically to the one over there that was doing it.
Yeah, so there weren't 90. There were
There wasn't probably any. There wasn't
Yeah.
probably any.
Oh, yeah.
It was all CGI all the way through, and I don't think any.
But
Until I see it with my own eyes,
It's the same thing with those dogs, though. I think there's the small ones seem quite lightweight. They do have ones that can fire AR-15s, but you watch it when they do it. They fire, and it's the first shot is on target, and every other shot after that strafes up because of the way the gun, the recoil.
Is this the one that you'd seen in the shooting gallery? And they push it over, kick it over.
This one was outside. It wasn't in a gallery. It was outside. It was a shooting range, but it was outside.
Shooting range. Yeah. Now I think that's fake.
I didn't see him. I didn't see him push this one over.
Yeah, they attack it and they hit it and they smash it and they jam the gun. They do everything to it.
You know that they've Boston Dynamics have put the video out where they showed that what they'd done was all CGI and it was all mapped on, like they had people wearing green suits with nodes on the suit, and it was all mapped. It was all choreographed and mapped. Human people doing it, and then CGI rendered over the top to make it look like it was the robots. And so they showed everybody that that's what they're doing, and yet even people that's seen that video still believe that this video is real. Oh yeah, well those guys, they were just messing about. They were just trying to copy Boston Dynamics or whoever it is. They were, but these ones are actually real. People don't get it. It's like, no, they're actually telling you. They're telling you it's fake. They're showing you it's fake, and they're relying on the fact that you're just going to forget that. Forget that and think that this one's real because they say on the news that it is. Because BBC is doing a special on it. It's ridiculous.
Well, I think the way we're going, I think we've all just got to keep our heads on, keep everything local, look after the people around us,
I guess that's
don't buy into too many stuff from places where we don't even need to go.
That's where I'm feeling vulnerable, I guess, because the fact that this is a holiday destination, it means that basically everybody that goes on holiday to Tenerife has been jabbed. There's a very small percentage of people that didn't come because they had to be jabbed, but it's only a small percentage. The majority of people all went out, got all their boosters and their jabs and everything. And the people that are here, like they put it out that you had to get like it wasn't even put out. It wasn't mandated by the government. It was individually mandated by companies saying, yeah, you've got to have the jab to work here.
So a lot of people were cohorted, as it were.
So there's
no network of
all there is there's who are we? That's it. Right? It's me and who are we? We're it on this island, as far as I know. Because I don't. I mean, I think Huawei's got friends who are switched on to maybe some things, but they're not. They're not. I don't know. Maybe they are on the same page. They're just. They're not people that have any sort of presence online at all. You know, they don't. They're not involved in the truth community kind of movement on YouTube.
Yet they're lucky enough to have found themselves in the position they are.
Well, I mean, the majority of them have always bucked against the system. I think that's what it is. They've always been dissidents and errants, you know.
Well, this is what I'm saying with the amount of numbers that have been falsified. You know, a lot of them aren't actually truthers. They just go against the system.
Yeah, they're more anarchist, more anarchistic.
There's a lot of people, you know, a lot of hippies that already know about vaccines and stuff like that.
Well, because they've known about
But
it since the beginning.
They're not that spiritually aligned with, you know, they're more of the new age than actually going openly and looking at everything else on a different level.
I mean that there's obviously huge there's a large number of people who are trying to find old teachings and go by those old teachings. But I think, like with myself, I have respect for the old teachings and stuff. But I also have a healthy skepticism of the source of that information. You know, it's like it's. I feel like we've never got it right. Even these people. I mean, you know, maybe there are individuals that have got it right and they've just not been able to communicate it to people, or their message has been lost, hidden, buried. But maybe there was a time when we were getting everything right. But I just get a feeling that we've never. The reason we are where we are now is because we needed to experience this. We always had to experience this. We've experienced. We're experiencing the same things in different ways. Like there's different different methods to apply the same what's the word? Devices.
Yeah.
You know, so 500 years ago, we were dealing with exactly the same thing as we are now, but we were dealing with it on a different level because we had a stronger connection to the information that we need, and they had less opportunity to, or they had less ability, they had less influence, because they didn't have the internet. They didn't have mobile phones. They weren't pumping out these frequencies that were able to manipulate our feelings and our thoughts. They did it in different ways back then, but now it's like they've got it down to a T to manipulate us through education, through diet, through chemicals, willingly and unwillingly ingested, digested, absorbed. So we've been really, really handicapped, but we needed to be handicapped to this level to be able to find ourselves again. Am I making sense? Like, to be able to fully realize ourselves, to be able to fully realize our place.
Kindergarten.
You're getting grabbled really bad. Yeah, you're getting grabbled really bad, dude. Are you still on your 4G, or have you gone back on Wi-Fi?
Yeah, my phone's just about to die.
Yeah, it's affecting us a bit. You'll get your. Didn't hear that.
I'm gonna have to.
Didn't hear that. Oh, good night. Yeah, all right, cool. All right, man. That sucks, man. That sucks. We got just the last bit. Can't hear you. It's been good talking to you, dude. Thank you for. I didn't catch all of that. I don't know if anybody else could hear what he said then. Yeah, they're not. All right, man. I'll see. Yeah, if you're gonna, you're on. Yeah, I think you said you're on 2%, aren't you? You should plug your phone in, man. Yeah, Sama said audio's bad, man. We can't make out what you're saying at all. That sucks. It's been all right up until this point, and then you. Yeah, oh, crikey, I've been going 2 hours and 40 minutes. Still got 11 people here. And give a shout out to the chat room. Raven, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. And Sema, good to see you again. Caucasian Sasquatch, good to see you, dude. Just JP, Martin Haley, Patrick Roberts, Jolly Man, Red Eye Jedi. Hey, dude, how you doing? Good to see you, mate. Joe's gone, isn't she? Shout out Joe Gifford. And Hobbs as well, if you're still here, mate. Good to see you in the chat room. I think that's pretty much everyone that's chatting. As always, I've got more people watching than I have chatting. So shout out to the people that are watching. And peace and love to Squirrel, who's just dropped off. It's always a pleasure speaking to him. I kind of wish I had his job in a way. There was a time when I wanted to be a tree surgeon, but now I feel kind of protective about trees. I understand what they were all going on about when they were Newbury bypass, when they were building tree houses and staying in the tree houses to stop the workers from cutting the trees down. You've never seen Squirrel Sniper on before, Raven? He's been on quite a few times on my channel. You don't spend enough time watching my videos, that's why. Nah, to be fair, it's sort of now and again. You need a tree man. Your fruit trees need to be pruned. Yeah, he's in the UK. So I don't know. Maybe you could commission him to come out and prune your trees for you, or maybe he could give you some advice. I don't know. I don't know if he does pruning fruit trees. He does like hedges and felling trees. Oh right, yeah. You just found me a month ago. Well, we came across each other, didn't we, in Voynich's chat, in Voynich's stream. I think that's where we met, was Voynich. My olive tree fell down in the storm November last year. I remember, do you remember 1987? Who remembers 1987 in the UK? So I was talking, I emailed True News, True Videos, TROO. He was on Voynich's channel the other day, and we exchanged emails. And so I emailed him about doing a live stream to talk about his website and stuff. And he's got back to me and said, cool, yeah, how about we do a live stream tomorrow? He's got stuff to do. And so he's got stuff to do in the morning, I think. And so after that, we can do the stream. Maybe around this time tomorrow, perhaps would work better for me. And that's 9 o'clock. He sent that in the evening. So that would be probably 1 o'clock or something, or maybe he's only 5 hours behind. So 4 o'clock in the afternoon for him. If you want, we can do a stream today in a few hours after I wake up from my nap. No, dude, I'll be asleep. It's, what is it? It's 25 to midnight now. So I'm going to bed soon. Going to lay down and listen to this natural news thing. Talk more later. Cool. So yeah, tomorrow looks like I'll be doing a stream tomorrow with Alex. True Videos, I think it's called. I can't remember. Yeah, definitely, Raven. Pop a link in the chat, and I'll put it up on the screen. Thought I'd put some drums on. I love me some tribal drums. I can't actually get to that. I need to go through the, all right, hang on. I need to actually come into my chat. There we go. Right, now I can share a screen. I need to do that without sharing the audio. Hang on. Try that again. There we go.
Thank you.
You comes your bag.
Aw, that's awesome. That's amazing. I can't see this in person. That's every time
Okay, here we go. Yeah, put your hand right there. Turn it up. Each one's a little different.
Thank you. Aw, that's so adorable.
14. 14.
Why, thank you.
Let's scoot your back down.
Thank you.
You comes your bag.
Aw, that's awesome. That's amazing. I can't believe I'm seeing this in person. That's awesome.
It's something you have to actually see to really
Well, she took
get
a
it.
video and,
Okay.
and sent it to me. I was like, it's much better in person.
That's brilliant, man. That's so cute.
Every time
Okay, here we go.
That is so
Put your
cute.
hand right there. Turn it up. Each one's a little different.
Thank you. Aw, that's so adorable.
14. 14.
Why, thank
I love rabbits. When I was married, I bought a rabbit for my wife. I bought her a rabbit, and it was cute, man. She wanted to call it Uzzbuzz. I was like, Uzzbuzz. That's a weird name. That's a crazy weird name. But we called it Uzzbuzz, and it was so grumpy. He was so grumpy. He used to stamp his feet. But it was crazy because his foot moved so damn fast. You hardly saw it. But the thump was loud, like he really stamped his foot. It's just so bloody quick. his foot moved so fast. You just heard the stamp, and you looked, and he sort of sat there staring at you with his little mouth going. He was a dwarf lop-eared rabbit. We were talking about archaics, weren't we? That's why I got this up. I was gonna watch his AI chat thing, right? Now, much love to Jason. I really respect his work and everything, but I don't think that he's really thought about the reality of this ChatGPT and the fact that it's just a word prediction algorithm, and it doesn't know what it's just told you. Whatever it is that it's just said, it's got no idea what it is that it's just said. It's got no idea what it's just said means. It can't explain itself to you. All it can do is spew out words that fit the situation. And they've proven that those words are politically influenced. Like, it seems to have a bias already. So I'm not scared about what it said at all. It doesn't concern me. It doesn't concern me. It's not an intelligent machine. It's just spitting out words. It's got no fucking idea what it just said. So yeah, I don't feel the need to go and listen to that. I was going to point out this thing as well, Richard Vobes, because he was talking to this guy, Sir Julian Rose.
Entrepreneurial business in the countryside, but the coup de grace in all this was it turned out that the Queen only drank unpasteurized milk.
Well, that's
The Daily Sunday Telegraph carried a huge headline: Queen's oil pinter to be banned.
yes.
So we had a lot of fun, and we won.
And you won, and that's the main thing. And that sort of eats is the ethos of what your whole farming thing is. There's a small farming.
It certainly is.
Yes. So you've set up the Hardwick Alliance for Real Ecology. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I'm co-founder with Justin Walker of the Hardwick Alliance for Real Ecology. And this has existed. It was born in February.
So Julian's talking about taking farming back to the farms, making it local again, decentralizing food production and food distribution. And it's lovely the conversation they have, but like what Richard Vobes suggests will never be accepted by the people that are running the show, because what they're asking them to do, what we would be asking them to do, is to redistribute the wealth by doing anything, bringing it back to a local level, will be redistributing the wealth amongst the people, redistributing, reinstating people's personal choice, and also they'd be eating healthy food if they were eating food that was grown locally, we're all supposed to eat food that's grown locally because it helps your immune system. That's why they don't want people eating food that's grown locally. So as nice as their ideas are, you're gonna have to get these. We're gonna have to deal with these people before we can expect to implement anything that's anything that's gonna help us. Here it is. Trust. This is the one I was.
Is it just me? Or is there a problem with trust at the moment? I'm struggling with trust. I mean, when you're a kid, you trust your parents, don't you, that they're going to do the right thing for you. And on the whole, most parents do, of course. You trust your siblings and your friends that...
What I like about this guy is he's another guy like Jeff Taylor. This is another man that is going to be speaking to a demographic that wouldn't give me the time of day, probably. Like, he's speaking to a demographic that wouldn't ever watch my videos. And he puts things in a very articulate way that will make people think in a way that I clearly can't.
When you're in need, they'll come to your aid, as you would for them. You trust your partner, don't you, that they're going to be truthful and honest. And if there are problems with any of these immediate people, you can do something about it. You can get together and you can talk and you can sort out your problems. And it's okay. Trust does go up and down, doesn't it? But you can sort that. That's not the trust that I'm having a problem with. The trust that I'm having a problem with is with the institutions in this world. You know, the government, the health service, education, the police system, banking, and the food industry. They seem to be the ones that I'm struggling with most at the moment. So the government, they just seem to lie to you. I mean, they seem to be blatantly lying to you. You give them the consent to form a government.
Not just the government, Rich. It's not just the government that's blatantly lying. They are all blatantly lying. Every single institution that frickin' exists is blatantly lying. I've just seen, and it looks like Bernie's gone live, right? Bernie's gone live with Rife. Yeah, don't worry. We don't need to see it. It's just nice to see him saying those things to a demographic that I'll never reach. Bernie's gone live. You get the link. Oh, it's a premiere. Premiere in it was 20 minutes ago. So right, there's going to be a premiere. Hang on. I'll just get the link for everyone. There we go. Bernie is premiering in 9 minutes. It's about Rife technology with Matt. So I'm gonna. It's 10 to 1. It's 10 to 12. Sorry. Yeah. So that it's at 12 o'clock. I'm gonna go to bed. I'm tired. My brain stopped working. I've been live streaming for, I don't know, about 8 hours today. Something like that. If anybody's still watching now on a replay and you're feeling generous or in a position to be able to help a fellow truth speaker who is being stopped from being able to earn his own bread and butter. If you can find it in your heart to support, there are links in the channel, or you can follow this QR code. And to anybody that is watching and can't help or doesn't want to help, I completely understand, man. And I don't hold anything against anybody. I love you all. Thank you very much for being here. And I'll see you all on the morrow.